Hello. Today we're taking a look at WordPress. This is a show where we look at unfamiliar code bases. And currently, that unfamiliar code base is WordPress, the blogging platform that is absolutely everywhere. Everyone's, first blog or so is often a WordPress blog. So let me make sure I have the chat pulled up. WordPress is bucking the trend and is using Subversion instead of Git. So we will try to browse on their Subversion uh, thingy. They're using Track, which is kind of like a self-hosted GitHub style thing that has uh, code and wikis and bug tracking and whatever. If we decide this is too much, then we'll hop over either to the local repo I've checked out or to GitHub, which at least is an interface that I'm pretty familiar with. So WordPress is written in PHP, the language of that Facebook was originally written back in the day. I've done the tiniest bit of PHP. I think it was maybe the first web language that I used, like many people. But I don't really remember anything about it. I know PHP has changed a lot since I've used it. It used to have the reputation of being like a security liability. And here we are. So we have some JS, presumably JavaScript with some enqueues. I don't know what enqueues are. Maybe they are things to be queued, maybe things that have been queued, maybe things that queue other things. And then we have admin, content, and includes. I know admin is probably important. That should be like the administration panel that you would use to do things like edit posts, remove comments, that sort of thing. Actually, let's see if we can see WordPress admin, some sort of admin dashboard screenshot. Looks kind of like that. But outside of admin and outside of include and content, we only have a few files. So let's maybe open up these folders in the background, and then I'll pull out this main tab and take a look at some of these things that are just floating in the main source folder. And then outside of the source folder, we have what I basically consider various kinds of metadata configurations for Git and READMEs, and Prettier we looked at yesterday is a code formatter. So we can ignore them. They have tests. Tests are good. End-to-end, Gutenberg, PHP unit. These should be unit tests. I'd like to see lots of unit tests. And it seems like they have lots of tests. I'm not going to dig into them. I don't know what Gutenberg is. I'm going to guess it's maybe a testing framework of some sort. Okay, so let's look at index.php and underscore index.php. We can ignore their license and the README HTML. Blog header is, I'm going to guess, going to display like the hero image for your blog. Cron is presumably a way of configuring cron jobs or recurring work. Login, I think, has traditionally been the source of some of the security bugs. Mail, settings, I think, is just like reads some sort of settings file. If I remember correctly, the settings might be like written in PHP in like executable code, but maybe we'll take a look at that. Sign up, I think, is probably for your readers to sign up for your blog as opposed to, you as a blog author signing up to like a hosted service. And then trackback. I guess we'll just open up trackback. And we're not going to give these equal time, but once we sort of get a flavor of how things look, then we'll I guess reach a cadence and start moving along. So here is index.php. So for whatever reason, track has a bunch of metadata stuff up here that I'll have to ignore. And there's only 67 lines, I assume, unless track is only showing me the first few lines. But this is index.php. Note this file exists only to remind developers to build the assets. For the real index.php that gets built and boots WordPress, please refer to underscore index.php. So this is just going to be some like error page, like you didn't do something. So we'll ignore it. Here's underscore index.php. It's only 405 bytes. We're going to define use word WP use themes. This presumably is PHP that defines some sort of variable. Maybe like a global variable. I'm not sure. And we have this var bool. I guess this is providing some typing information. And then all we're doing is requiring dir, which loads the WordPress environment and template. And the dir we are requiring is wp blog header.php. Oh, sorry. Dir, I guess, is probably the directory we're running in. So require, again, I don't know PHP, but I think what's going on is that we're just saying require in the current directory the blog header, which I think we opened up. Did we open it up? I'm not sure, but we can open it up now. Blog header. Right. Again, this is small. And the first thing we do is check if something is set. What are we checking? Whether WP did the header. And if WP did not do the header, we set did the header to true before we even do the header. Seems like maybe we want to do the header first to make sure that this doesn't, if something fails here or whatever, I guess we'll think that we did the header, even though we didn't do the stuff that actually changes stuff. But anyway, after we set this Boolean, we load the WordPress library by requiring, I guess, from the current directory WP load. And then we set up the WordPress query. I don't know what query that is, but we're calling, I guess, a WP function, which gets defined where. It's not clear. I'm guessing require once maybe loads it into scope somehow. And then we require once an absolute path, I guess, because you might put your templates somewhere other than where you're serving from. And we call it template loader PHP. I don't know what WPINK is. WordPress Inc. maybe. So maybe for whatever reason, this is a different path. Who knows why? But this is telling us, yes, let's look in WP load PHP. I don't know why we're doing all of this work in so many different files. Seems like maybe that could be consolidated. All right, here's the bootstrap file for setting the abs path constant and loading a WP config file. The WP config.php file will then load the WP settings.php file, which will then set up the WordPress environment. Okay, so we define absolute path as this file's directory. So absolute path was something we called in the previous file, I think only after we had loaded this file. So absolute path is this thing, is I guess basically here. With this error reporting function, it can be disabled. But if we have it enabled, we might initialize it. And if the config.php file exists in the WordPress root, or if it exists in the root and settings.php doesn't, load wp-config.php. The secondary check for wp settings.php has the added benefit of avoiding cases where the current directory is a nested installation, e.g. / is a WordPress A and / blog is WordPress B. Okay. If neither sets of conditions is true, initiate loading the setup process. Okay. So we check for some config files. And if they exist, we're going to require them once. Otherwise, we do this secondary check to handle, I guess, cases where you might have nested WordPress files, WordPress blogs or whatever. Otherwise, we have no config. And then we'll define WP Inc. to be WP includes. And we're going to read like the version, the compatibility and load and check for PHP and maybe just load some generic content, I guess. We load WP content. I guess this is perhaps just like doing the default or whatever. We're going to load functions.php, set path to, I guess we'll try to guess our URL to, and then add the admin setup config stuff. And then we'll redirect to the setup script. But if string doesn't, if the server request URI, I guess, doesn't contain the string setup config, then the header location, this is, I guess, where we redirect. We'll set the header location to path, which was set to the setup config.php. Then we'll load translations early, and then I guess die with an error message. And it doesn't seem to be okay. And the error message is we say that we didn't find a file, and we have this, do you need help, etc. And then you can create files by doing this. So I'm not sure why we redirected to here and then loaded translations. I guess maybe we're loading translations so that we can print this error message in various languages. But I guess if we are able, if we do this, whatever this redirecting stuff is, then we exit. So I guess we don't get down here. But I'm not sure. So if it doesn't have this setup config thing, then I guess that's when we bail out or something like that. At any rate, let's move along. Here's a pseudo cron daemon for scheduling WordPress tasks. It's triggered when the site receives a visit. So I guess if you have no visitors, your crons won't run. Oh, here we go. In the scenario where a site may not receive enough visitors to execute scheduled tasks in a timely manner, this file can be called directly via a server cron daemon for X number of times. Okay, so if you don't get any visitors, it'll try to do this. This is super hacky. But at any rate, we have get cron lock, so there's some sort of lock for the crons. I don't know if PHP has real locks or if we're just doing something a little bit hacky. But we do things like attempt to raise the PHP memory limit for cron event processing. And then the cron lock is a Unix timestamp when the cron was spawned. Okay, so so doing cron transient, we're going to call get transient doing cron. And I guess that has something to do with maybe get transient sets some sort of timestamp or gets the timestamp. And use global doing WP cron lock, otherwise use get lock. So if we're doing WP cron, which was defined where, maybe it hasn't been defined yet. So if it's empty, then we do some stuff, and the stuff we do is we check if we try to get we try to get request on doing WP cron, and then I guess assuming that succeeds, we check doing cron transient, and this doing cron transient is like a timestamp that they're thinking of as a lock, I believe. We check, so I guess maybe we're just checking if that's non-null, and then looking at the cron transient variable plus some lock timeout and check whether that's larger than the GMT time. I guess just using GMT to standardize the time. And if that's true, then I guess we have considered ourselves to have been timed out and we return. Otherwise, we set doing WP cron, which we had tried to get here, to a string that we get by calling microtime. And then we set doing cron transient to the global lock. And we set transient, whatever set transient does, to doing of the string doing cron, maybe to the value of the doing WP cron thing. What in the what? Okay, so there's some super weird, hacky locking behavior using timestamps. Hello from Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan. Hello. How are things in Uzbekistan? You may be the first person in the Answer Everywhere uh, populace from Uzbekistan. Okay, so here's login. Right. Handles authentication, registering, resetting passwords, forgot password, and other user handling. So make sure WordPress Bootstrap has run before continuing. So we try WP load, which we saw a call to before. I guess that just prevents login from running before whatever function is supposed to be running load. Um, and then we may redirect to SSL. If force SSL admin is set and we are not SSL, then we do this redirect because we're redirecting HTTP using whatever safe redirect is to HTTPS. Otherwise, server doesn't start with HTTP, and we're redirecting HTTPS concatenated with the server host. I'm not sure really what's going on. So if we do start with HTTP, then we're just resetting the scheme. Because if we don't start with HTTP, then it's assuming maybe that we've typed in something like core.track without the HTTP prefix, perhaps. I'm not sure. But at any rate, it adds the HTTPS prefix. Right. And then we output the login page header. And what does it do? We, I guess, say that we don't want robots. We don't want robots crawling our page. We add the action login head to strict origin referrer. This is something about setting like the same cross origin policy. And then we add login head to the viewport meta. I don't know what viewport meta is, but that's the thing we do. Oh, wait, this is adding action. Maybe we're adding this action to the head. I don't know. And then we check for errors and then shake it. And then we get the shake error codes, which is an array of string literals. And the literals are things like empty password, empty email, invalid combo, etc. And filters error codes array for shaking the login form. Okay, so we apply filters of passing in shake error codes. I guess this is the human readable version, and then we do actually pass in the variable. And if shake error codes, which was defined here, but we filtered it. So I guess maybe what apply filter is doing is like it's returning only the error codes um, that are like that validly describe what's going on given the state of the login form or something like that. So I'm going to assume that these error codes after filtering are errors that are legitimately happening. So if we have error codes and WP error has errors, and the error code is in uh, and the error code from WP error is one of the shake error codes. Then we add an action to the login footer that says WP shake JS. Maybe this is like when your login page says no. It's like does the shaking no thing when you enter the wrong password or something. But that adds the action. I don't know if it executes the action. But anyway, after doing that, and we set the login title to the by getting the name of the blog, I suppose, the display name. and then we throw up the title, possibly translating it. Check if we're in recovery mode. I'm not sure how you put something into recovery mode. And I guess the only thing we change is that we change the string to say recovery mode. Then we have more filters. These filter the title tag content for login page. Okay. So what are we filtering? Something about login titles. And then we have some like literal HTML that says some stuff about language attributes. We've got these PHP tags. I'm not really, really sure what they're up to. In general, I think the idea of PHP is you mix HTML with this PHP markup. So I guess that this is maybe just the HTML part. And then we enqueue the style login. I guess this is just some like CSS style or theme or whatever. I don't know what it means to enqueue it. I don't know when styles get popped off the queue or whatever. But I guess we have some, maybe like a style queue, and one of the styles is named login or something. Then we remove all stored post data on logging out. This could be added by action login head like WP Shake.js, but maybe better if it's not removable by plugins. So we check the variable logged out, which I'm not sure where it was set. But if logged out is equal to the this error code, oh sorry, you get the error code, some error code, and if the error is logged out, then we call obstart, I suppose, terminate the PHP, and then have this script, which I think is probably JavaScript, and it looks in session storage in the window, in the browser window, and it's going to try for var key in session storage. So iterate over the session storage. If the and looking in the essentially in the key value store, look at the index of WP save, sorry, WP autosave. It presumably returns -1 if it's not there. So if it's not -1, then we remove the key. It possibly catch an error. Do nothing. Do nothing with it and return. So since this, I guess like one thought I have is, assuming I'm understanding what's going on, which is certainly not a given. It seems like the it seems like this is basically untestable JavaScript that's security critical. It's the thing that wipes out your session storage when you log out. So I don't know how they would know if there was an error here or like a subtle bug, or if it got changed and broken in some edge cases, especially since they seem to be catching an error and just dropping it on the floor, since there's nothing in the catch thing. At any rate, down here we get back to PHP, I suppose. Inline script tag, WP remove surrounding empty script tag, OB get clean. Important to get clean. That's good. And then we have some let's see, enqueue scripts and styles for the login page. We have do action, login and queue scripts. I don't know how that's different from earlier we called like an enqueue method, but here this seems to be like kind of like the command pattern where we have an enqueue command or action, and we're calling do action to do it. And then we do action login head, and we saw login head used up here somewhere, right? So maybe this is so maybe add action is either like adding some sort of hooks after login head or something like that. But now we know that login head seems to be an action itself, as opposed to something like a location or whatever. And then, oops, not add action, I want do action. So after doing the action login head, then we set the URL, the header URL to wordpress.org. I'm not sure why we would do that if you're on a blog other than wordpress.org. And then, I guess this is just setting to the default, and we're maybe going to filter it here. Filters the link URL of the header logo above login form. Okay. We'll set the title to the empty string. Filters the title attribute of the header logo above the login form. I guess what we're doing is essentially trying to set this stuff from somewhere, somehow from the config. I'm not sure. Um, then this is adding the powered by WordPress thing that you see at the bottom of WordPress blogs. This is something about filtering the link test, the link text. So we'll look at apply filters, we'll look at add actions and a bunch of that stuff. But I guess this is enough of the login page for me. I guess I'm going to ignore mail. It was a thing for a long time to have mail integrations, but I'm not sure if that's a huge thing anymore. Maybe it is. WP settings. Here's the settings file, and I think this is the file that's supposed to read the settings, right? Stores the location of the directory of functions, classes, and core content. Used to set up and fix common variables. Includes the WordPress procedural and class library. So we're requiring a bunch of stuff like mode cookie service, mode key service, mode link service. We set up initial constants, including the memory limit, max memory limit, etc. Whether I guess we're in debug mode, script debug mode. We're registering here. We're registering some handlers, I guess, for fatal errors. Fix server vars and check if it's in maintenance mode. Then we have more filters. Apply filter seems to be called everywhere. I wonder if is apply filters a PHP thing, or is it a WordPress thing? I think that this is a WordPress thing. So apply filters, given a hook name, a value in args. I'm not sure what mixed is. Maybe it means an array of mixed values. Calls the callback functions that have been added to a filter hook. The function invokes all functions attached to filter hook. It is possible to create new filter hooks by simply calling this function, specifying the name of the new hook using the hook name parameter. So here's an example usage. We have some example callback that I guess is going to be stored in example name, or sorry, in the name example callback. So we call it add filter, example callback, and then what? Value in args 10 and 3. And we apply the filters by calling the example callback function that's hooked into the example filter above. We call apply filters, passing an example filter, which is the name here, filter me, and arg1 and arg2. And arg1 and arg2 are passed to the callback. So this is giving you some way to call the function. Filter me is the value being filtered. So that's essentially just the first argument, I guess, to the function that you've added to the filter. What does 10 mean? I'm not sure. It says it's the value. At any rate, it expects two args, and you supply those two args when you call apply filter. And all this is doing is returning the string, kind of ignoring the other args. Expand code. Okay. The value to filter is value. Oh, maybe I need to look at add filter to see what the second argument to add filter does. Maybe it's like a priority. Add filter. Adds a callback function to a filter hook. Yeah, it is priority. And the number of accepted args is the third. Now, what about add action? I'm guessing this is why WordPress is relatively is so popular. That really it's kind of like a frame. They're building something like a framework that you can do things like have callbacks and extension points, right? And then the specific way they like render the HTML and handle login, that's in a sense an implementation detail. You could, in theory, just try to factor out all of the framework stuff like you would have for something maybe like Ruby on Rails. But in WordPress, they're kind of bundled together, it seems like. So add action we'll take a hook name, a callback, the priority, and the number of arguments. How is an action different from a filter? I'm not sure. Actions are the hooks that WordPress core launches at specific points during execution or when specific events occur. But what? All right. So what about add filter? Did we already look at that? We offer filter hooks to allow plugins to modify various types of internal data. I guess maybe the main distinction they seem to be making is that actions are called by WordPress itself and filters are more available perhaps to plugins. At any rate, here's the settings file. We're requiring a ton of stuff. Basically, we're loading. We've got some globals and loading mandatory plugins, must use plugins. And is there anything especially? And then we can load the active plugins, etc. I guess I'm not going to look too closely at this. Let's see if we can find some more interesting stuff that covers new ground. Here's trackback. What is trackback? Handles trackbacks and pingbacks sent to WordPress. I'm not really sure what a trackback is. Oh, hello. Hello, Lucifer. It's good to see you here. This is I think this is a good topic to cover. Can I do Laravel next? I cannot for two reasons. One is I have a huge backlog of stuff, so I can't like bump anything in front of the backlog. And the second is that currently I'm not taking new requests, but I will. What I will do is I'll make a note that Laravel has been requested. But for a while I was promising that I would eventually get to things, and so I'm putting a break on promising, just because I have like 60 or so of these that I've made promises about, and that's a bit too much to manage currently. Okay, so a trackback is it allows another website to notify you about an update. So I guess this makes sense in the blogging world, like your friend who has a blog updates their blog, and then your blog that links to him or her can update the link or something along those lines. It's one of 4 types of link back methods for website authors to request notification when somebody links to one of their documents. This enables authors to keep track of who is linking to their articles. Okay, so what are the other ones? We have refback, trackback, pingback, and web mention. The trigger for what do I want to know? Maybe the trigger is when a visitor clicks on the link. For trackback, code on the linking server examines added or updated documents and sends a post. Pingback, we look for we basically watch for new stuff and send an XML RPC call. In web mention, the linking server again looks for documents, extracts links, and then sends notification in post. I'm not sure. This seems like maybe it just sends different information or whatever. Okay, so different essentially callbacks to notify about linking behavior changing. Okay, now where are we? I think I closed out the first browser window, which leaves us with things like the content, the includes. The includes has stuff like certificates. I don't know, block supports block patterns. Maybe this is for like the editor. Small posts, small image and title. Yeah, so this is like a block of HTML, basically, whatever underscore X is. And then we have the block type is core query. The categories are query. And then we have this big block of something or other. These are all in comments. but maybe the comment somehow gets stripped. But this is obviously some sort of XML, presumably just HTML. And we've got things like div with a class, WP block query, etc. Let's look at WordPress query. Because I've seen query now mentioned a couple times in the code in places that seem a little bit like it's not clear who's querying what. WP query, the query class. Most of the time, you can find the information you want without actually dealing with the class internals. What is it? All right, let's ask Bard, which is maybe now Gemini. Tell me about WordPress queries. They're essentially like requests for information sent to your website's database. Okay, so this, I guess they're hitting the database. Here's a breakdown. Retrieve content, control content display. For example, they determine what content appears on different parts of your website. For example, a category archive retrieves all posts belonging to that category. It customizes your site. Okay. So by default, we have built-in queries for different scenarios, like displaying blog posts on the homepage. Yeah. Okay. I see. So I wish I had a standard WordPress site. Um, Scott Aronson's site a WordPress site? Whoa, whoa, whoa! Don't do that. All right. So here's a WordPress blog that everyone should read if you like quantum computers. It seems to be a WordPress site. So we'll pick on Scott. Um, so when you display a page on whether we're living in a simulation, is this new? This is from yesterday. Then what WordPress I guess is doing is the title, like are we living in a simulation, and the date and all of this text are stored in a database. I think typically like a MySQL database, and we looked at MySQL's. We looked at MySQL yesterday, and it's going to pull this stuff from the database using some sort of SQL query. And I guess the way that works is it's going to the PHP code when I load this page has to know which things to query. So, for example, it is presumably going to pass in some sort of date to because otherwise it would like maybe just pull the oldest articles first. So all of that stuff I guess has to be configured in some way, and I think that's what the queries are about, and that's maybe why we saw that's why we saw in this example is going to get a small image and title that it's a query. And here's the query. Per page is 3. So I guess we're going to have 3 small image and title per page. 0 pages, whatever 0 means. Maybe 0 means literally 0. No offset. The post type, I guess post, I don't know if that means like an HTTP post request. I don't know if that means like a blog post. We're going to order by descending, and maybe the I guess descending order of like as you publish, presumably something changes in the database, and so maybe descending is just the most recent ones first. Order, or actually, we give them an explicit order, so so they don't need to rely on that sort of logic. So they're going to order by date, descending, and I guess we're going to pass in the author, but set to an empty string. Maybe that's something you can configure, and a search string, etc. And so I guess the idea is that in loading up this page, this would perform that sort of query when you hit the page or something like that. And I don't know if we can look at the code. of this blog. But see if we can find some PHP, or maybe if we can find query. So we do have this query selector thing. That seems like JavaScript. Do we have PHP? Do we have WP query? I don't know. I'm not really sure. This is like the rendered page, so I don't think we have access to the we would have access to the PHP page anyway. I think I don't really remember how it works, but browsers don't speak PHP. I think it has to be pre-processed by some PHP preprocessor. But anyway, I think that's the sort of thing that's going on here. And these are just different block patterns, like offset post, small post, standard post. Let's look at standard post, I guess. This is another query. I don't know. Let's open the one with images. Where is it? Maybe you can just go back. Query small posts. And then standard posts. So let's just look at how these are different. So for one, they're different because they have different titles and stuff, but this is like just metadata. At the level of the query, what's different? We get the same per page, same offset. The div, this stuff after the query, I guess, looks different. We have this the div class is different. Whatever this template stuff is, post template, post title, post excerpt separator. Then there might be a block separator. And here, how do we know that it's small image and title? I guess is what I'm wondering. We have this centering in columns, which I don't think we have in the regular posts. I don't know. We've got more formatting. We've got this thing about featured images, but I don't know. Post type, post order. Not sure. Something should be different about these, and it's not jumping out at me, but I'm sure it's somewhere. I'm not going to spend too much time digging into it, but in theory, those queries should return different stuff. I think I didn't actually mean to close this page. Okay, so what else is in WP includes? We have other blocks, and the blocks are what? Things like columns, code, categories, comments. We have block.json and comments. A gallery is, I'm going to guess, an image gallery. And for whatever reason, some of these are JSON. Here's comments. An advanced block that allows displaying post comments using different visual configurations. So I guess this is maybe possibly newer. Maybe they're adding more JSON stuff and moving away from just straight up PHP. We saw that they called what I believe to be a JavaScript function inside PHP. So maybe there's a little bit of like modernization in that sense. Images, crystal, media, smiles. No, not smiles, similes. Brownie. Okay. So these are like emojis. Yeah. Okay. So this is some sort of emoji support. ID3, I forget what ID3 is, but I think ID3 is like an MP3 tagging library, or a tagging standard. Is metadata container most often used in conjunction with the MP3 audio format. So I guess at some point they decided that support for MP3 tags was something that that WordPress wanted. Pomo, is this like Pomodoro? Streams, PO, class working with PO files. Um, is PO like translations? I'm not sure. Something, whatever PO files are. Classes that help reading streams of data from files. POMO reader. POMO file reader. What is it? File pointer resource. I don't know. Something about reading files. Maybe it's just reading files in general. And then we have like text stuff like diff. Maybe this is for rendering diffs in your PHP blog. Inline diff renderer. This class renders diffs in the wiki style inline format. Okay, so this, I think these are just like little trinkets you can add, little blocks you can add to your blog. And so I guess the another thing that makes WordPress popular is that it has all of these built-in features. You can like add these little widgets, and I think you get kind of like a point and clicky sort of interface where you can like move them around nicely and that sort of thing. So I guess a lot of these seem to be that sort of widget. So I think that's what's going on includes. Here's content, and what we have things like themes. Let's 2011. I guess these are years. Are these years? Let's look at 2024 from 2 hours ago. Sorry, 22 hours ago. And so we have functions. What are in functions? Are these just any functions? 2024 block styles. This is some sort of, we have an array. Register block style, somehow, I guess, calling some registration function. And this is an array, basically a dictionary that is, then if you look up name in the dictionary, you should get arrow icon details, if I'm understanding correctly. And these are the labels and so on. And then inline style seems to be basically CSS. And it's just a bunch of this kind of stuff. Okay, so that's functions. It seems like that could be more declarative as opposed to being in functions, but I'm sure that this is a well-oiled machine by this point. Then we have some JSON that I guess is also defining some of the theme content, like some gradients. Verticals, sable to beige. Okay, so that's some theme stuff. What else is in content? Oh, yeah. So themes and plugins, and I guess we have hello plugin just as an indicator of like a how you would make a plugin. Hello Dolly. This is not just a plugin. It symbolizes the hope and enthusiasm of an entire generation, summed up in 2 words, sung most famously by Louis Armstrong. Okay. And then here are the lyrics to Hello Dolly. And what does plugin do? Well, this is a function Hello Dolly lyric get lyric. This can't be part of the public plugin API. Neither can the function Hello Dolly, nor can Dolly CSS. But what we do is we add action that is part of the public API to admin head Dolly CSS. And Dolly CSS is going to, I guess, position some code. Oh, this is just going to set the CSS, but I missed these add actions here. It's going to send a notice of the Hello Dolly lyrics or whatever. Okay. So this is probably something like a toast pop-up. And the way that you would do that apparently is you would add action admin notices, essentially add the Hello Dolly function to this hook or whatever. Okay, so that's WP content. And here's WP admin, which I don't really think I'm going to look. I guess I kind of feel like I have to. One thing we haven't seen is how you put together a page. So like as you're editing, there should be like I mentioned, there's widgets that you can move around. Let's see if we can find a good thing of it. Maybe something like this. So there should be some text editor, and this is presumably in the admin folder. And what else? Like what other sorts of things should we see? WordPress, add widget. I don't know if I'm allowed to show another YouTube video on my YouTube video. Actually, maybe I won't, just to avoid any badness. But let's see if we can find something like the editor. We have edit comments, customize, edit. It could be customize, it could be edit, import, index, install, load scripts, moderation. Moderation could be, yeah, let's look at it briefly, I guess. Installing plugins and stuff. Post, again, I don't know if this is like HTTP post, but it might be blog post. Site editor, I'm going to guess, is maybe a place to be. So let's see if it's in one of these. Edit posts. Edit post administration screen. This should be the screen where you can, you have like some list of posts. And you have, you can click on them and delete them, that sort of thing. Something like this, maybe. Bulk actions, kind of like an email style thing. So you should essentially be querying a list of posts, and then when you make a change, it should write that change to the database somehow. So we're getting the admin PHP thing. Global, type now. The post type of the current screen, which is, I suppose, if you don't have a valid if you don't have a valid one, then it's an invalid post type. We check if the type now is in the array of post types, I guess, of valid post types. And if type now is equal to the literal string attachment, then it's going to send you to an upload page, it looks like. I'm not sure why that stuff happens first, but down here, we get the post type, and we get the object from the type. It might be invalid. We check if the user has the appropriate edit permissions. So maybe I was wrong that this is not like bulk editing posts. This is maybe you're editing a single post. And then we get the list table. Well, maybe it is. WP post list table. We get a list table and the page number, I guess, where we are in the table. And this is some backward compatibility stuff that I'll ignore. We unset redirect. And then we look at the post type of the post and check whether, I guess, it's editable or new or something along those lines. Then we get the current action from the list table. And if we get a non-null action, then we check admin refer or bulk posts. So I guess this is checking maybe if it is a bulk action. And remove query arg. I guess this is maybe saying don't query posts that are trashed, untrashed, deleted, locked, or something, or that have, I don't know what IDs is, maybe. So we don't have anything to send back. Then we set send back to the parent file. Otherwise, we add the query arg paged to send back. If it contains post PHP, we set send back to the admin URL post new file. I don't know what that's doing. Maybe that's configuring the back button somehow. And then post IDs is an empty array. And if the action is delete all, then we prepare for the deletion of all posts with a specified post status, namely empty trash. That we preg should be just a regular expression, I think. We essentially regular expression replace, this regex with, I don't remember if this is a literal slash in this language or um, or it's just escaping the character container thing. But basically, alphanumeric of multiple alphanumeric characters. I don't know what this I is doing. Um, but we're somehow replacing it, all this stuff with the empty string in the post status, I suppose. Let me validate that the post status exists. We check the post status by calling get post status object and then do what? And then here we have a SQL statement finally. Select ID from posts, and we're just popping our variables directly into the SQL statement. Where post type is %s is presumably like maybe the first string, and post status is %s. And so it's looking at post types that have this status. And then we set do action to delete. So I guess if it's delete all, we just get the posts and then set the action to delete. And then I guess we do various other things. Let's see if we can find the an update statement. Was it drop, delete, SQL? I would have figured it was update, but let's see if we can find the delete action. So if I think this should be if we're in the delete action. Then we might not be able to delete the post, in which case we'll error out. Okay, so we're going to get it. If we can delete the post, we check if we can, possibly fail. And if we're down here, we call WP delete post on the post ID. And then this function, I'm not sure where it's defined. It's not defined here. But maybe we can do grep and is it obvious? I could look in the tags, but I'm not going to. Well, it's defined somewhere, and presumably it's going to update something. Let's try grep our update. So we do have some update queries, but the main thing I wanted to find out is let's find some places where it's actually calling SQL commands just to verify that we have a sane grasp on reality. And that's enough for me. So customize.php will do what? Theme customization. That's not what I'm interested in. Here's the comment moderation administration screen, which is just gonna load some other file. Here's edit post administration panel. So I'm guessing this is editing a single blog post. We look at the post type, we get the refer, and we get an action, which I glossed over, but we're going to switch on the action, and we might save draft, etc. We might post Ajax post or post, in which case we check admin refer, and we check it whether we're writing or editing the post, and then we redirect to the post ID and exit. If we're editing, then we set editing to true. If we don't have a post, we die. If we don't have valid type, then we die. And we might do some more error checking. And if the post lock is not empty, I guess that means somebody else is editing it. We exit. And then if all the error checking has made it to this point, then we get the post type. And it might be I guess it, what? No, we already got, okay, so if the post type is post, then then edit.php, I guess, is the parent and the submenu file. I guess that's information about navigation or something along those lines. Then the post new file is post new.php. If it's an attachment, then we have some other stuff. We set the title here, and whatever this is allows replacement of the editor. I think we're in the same function. We look at the replace editor filter and possibly replace the editor. Um, and if we want to use the block filter, the block editor for the post, I think block editor is a relatively new thing in the history of WordPress. Then so we might use the block editor. And this is the file possibly that has the block editor in it. So let's look at that briefly, and then we just do some more stuff. But what happens if we don't use the block editor? Then we check whether it's locked. If it's not locked, that is. Then we set the lock position, check if there's an attachment, get the post, and see if it supports comments. And then we go to edit form advanced. So we have edit form advanced versus edit form blocks. I think blocks is newer. And I'm going to drop off soon. That's a lot of if statements. It is a lot of if statements. Sometimes programming comes down to lots of if statements. The WordPress block editor, also called the block editor, WordPress editor, or Gutenberg editor. So that's what Gutenberg was in the code that we saw before, is the new way of publishing content on WordPress. Is it the new way of publishing content, or is it the new way of editing content? I think it's more about editing. Oh man. All right. So let's look at edit form blocks. And this is going to be probably really complex. And I just want to get a flavor of it. Okay. We have some block editor context, which is a new block editor context. And what? Some preload stuff. I'm going to try to skip to where I see some like graphical information, some like GUI information. It's like filtering text, and queuing style, and queue block editor assets. Fires after block assets have been enqueued for the editing interface. Call add action, etc., etc. Right? So we've got this init script, which is JavaScript. We're going to call window WP load block editor. New promise. DOM, I guess, whatever this is, DOM ready. I guess we're waiting until possibly something is ready. And then calling edit post initialize editor with some strings. And so maybe what's really going on is that the block editor is a JavaScript application. Is that right? So what was this initialize editor? So let's look for initialize editor. Let's re-invoke Emacs. We'll ignore it. Whoa. That was a lot of constants. Edit site min.js. I'm guessing this is where I want to be. Edit site min.js. Huh. Initialize editor. Okay. So it seems like this is consistent with my theory that the new editor is JavaScript based. However, I don't really feel like reading minified JavaScript. So I wonder if we have the unminned version, what was it called? Edit site. Edit site.star. Wait, am I doing grep? No, I want to do find edit site.star. Okay, here's a non-minified version. There we go. Although, is there a prettier mode? Can I do that? All right. I don't have the I don't have the underlying program to prettify it. Something seems a little bit off by this text, but whatever. First of all, we've got all of this weird commenting stuff, this Webpack Bootstrap stuff. I don't know what that's about. We've got this function here that's kind of starting off in column 29 or whatever. I don't know what that's about. We've got this function that takes no arguments and defines like a billion functions inside of it, including this function that takes ent and then defines a what is going on. I don't know what to make of this, but maybe we'll ask one of the AIs. But internally, after all of this stuff, some of this stuff seems to be understandable. We have some functions that take arguments, some subarray stuff. I'm wondering if this is somehow generated code. I don't know how long I can make this. So what does this code do? I think it's going to be too long. Yeah. I don't know if Gemini is going to hate me for the first thing I do to it being to plug something in too long. But well, first of all, how long is the code? I think I just made Gemini freeze. Let's abandon all hope here. I don't know. Whatever it does something. And I wonder if I can find any information about it. WordPress edit site.js. Obfuscated code? Yeah, it could be obfuscated. I'm not. It doesn't look necessarily intentionally obfuscated, although I don't know. But it does look possibly generated. And I'm not sure why an open source project would obfuscate their own code. So what about Gutenberg code? Gutenberg editor? The new Gutenberg editing experience. Let me try resurrecting one of these things, maybe Bard, which I guess I should call Gemini now. Tell me about the Gutenberg editor for WordPress. It's not just an editor, it's a whole new philosophy for creating content and customizing your WordPress website. Here's a breakdown. We have the editor. There it says Tiny MCE. Is that another project? Tiny MCE. The most advanced? What you see is what you get, HTML editor. Tiny MCE. So this is some editor. It's MIT licensed. Integrated is designed to integrate with JavaScript libraries. It's compatible with the classic browsers. And it was used, I guess, in WordPress. Let's look up Gutenberg Tiny MCE WordPress. Gutenberg and Tiny MCE FAQ. What is Gutenberg? The WordPress Gutenberg project is one of the biggest changes in WordPress in a decade. We thought we would address a few questions and misconceptions about how it relates to Tiny MCE. So are they replacing TinyMCE? The goal is for Gutenberg to replace the classic editor interface on WordPress, not TinyMCE. Both use aspects of TinyMCE under the hood. Is the classic editor based on TinyMCE? It was built using TinyMCE libraries. However, classic editor is both less and more than TinyMCE. Is this the classic one? This is the default editor in V4. Looks pretty clean. Is this a newer one? Here's the Gutenberg interface. Gutenberg is a significantly more sophisticated undertaking than the classic editor ever was. It continues to use TinyMCE for rich text editing, and there is a classic block which has some TinyMCE UI. However, Gutenberg as a whole is a very different editing experience based on the concept of blocks, with more of a focus on layout. Rich text editing is one thing it does. It no longer directly exposes the TinyMCE APIs to developers. Okay, cool. That was helpful. So we've got the block, drag and drop, etc. More than just content. Expands to full site. All right, so I guess we have this the Gutenberg plugin. So maybe Gutenberg is developed as a plugin. The Gutenberg team. Yeah, for creating a new WordPress, blah 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 blah. It ships with WordPress, blah blah blah. But where's the code? Development. Interested in development? Browse the code. So it is in the Gutenberg folder. Although, is this a separate repo? So we're in what, browser/Gutenberg, whereas here we were in browser/trunk. And I guess we're in plugins track. So this is a separate subversion repo, I guess. And I'm not convinced this is PHP. I'm guessing this is maybe JavaScript. No, it is PHP. Okay. So we have things like blocks PHP. I just want to see a little snippet of it. On plugins track. Demo. I don't know if there's anything else that'll open up more quickly. I don't know. Is blocks huge? 17 kilobytes. Are you going to load? I guess not. Maybe I'll ask Bart. So is it implemented in PHP? So here's blocks. We can register core block types. And this is an array, which I think PHP arrays, I think they're often used kind of like dictionaries. Is that an array is actually an ordered map. Map is a type that associates values to keys. So an array is used in PHP for like key value tuples. And so we have something. We have an array of a bunch of stuff that are like, I guess, the kinds of blocks like column, details, form input, list item, etc. And then we have block names. So archives.php goes to core/archives. And pattern.php goes to core/pattern. So this is just this seems to be associating two strings with each other. We have block directories and block folders and block names. We are adding the action init, register core block types, and then we have this defer loading strategy thing. Okay. So far, this is kind of like setting things up as opposed to like UI elements. Let's see if I can find some UI elements. There was that core directory. I'm not really seeing here yet. In sync, maybe these are, I don't know, dependencies or something. What about assets? We have the TinyMCE proxy. So this should be some proxy to the TinyMCE interface, at least for like a rich text block, it sounds like. Let's close experimental. And I don't know. I don't know. Should we look at demo.php? So Gemini says, while the main user interface and editing experience of Gutenberg are built with JavaScript and React. Okay, so JavaScript and React are used to build the editor interface. It sounds like the editor itself relies on both PHP and JavaScript. Okay. The drag and drop interface, block editing controls, and live preview are powered by JavaScript libraries like React. That's really what I wanted to know. And with that, I think I'm going to stop looking looking at the WordPress page. So that's WordPress. WordPress. We've got more stuff coming up tomorrow, but I will remind myself what we're looking at tomorrow. OBS and Ogre 3D. So that'll be fun. That'll be like audio and video. So I expect to see you there. Thanks for watching.